Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Duck Films and today we're going to be going over the patch notes for Deadlock for the 6th of December. Subscribe if you're new, like the video if you like it, and let's get started. Diving straight into our first topic, we have some general changes. And if you're looking to change up your diet, make sure to check out Control, links are in the description. But seriously, here's the changes. So first things first, they added a new hero, Raven, to the hero labs. They added theming to Purple Lane. They added a park backdrop to the park side of map. They updated tree models for each player on the main leaderboard. You can see their top 3 heroes. And then it's just a whole bunch of fixes and improvements for the game in general. Things like fixing audio and fixing different types of bugs. And of course, like always, I'll have the full link to the patch notes down in the description below. Because when it comes to Misc gameplay, we have a lot to cover. So they added an extra competitive option to allow players to control what type of players are placed on their team. If you prefer to play with higher levels of coordination, communication, and competitiveness, then you can use this option to tell the matchmaker to build your team with like-minded allies. Then an extra competitive option for incoming chat and lane preferences. The matchmaker will now try to prioritize each team having at least 2 front laners. Ability range stat now has diminishing stacking. Ability duration start now has diminishing stacking as well. Fire rate now has a minimum final value of -50%. Heroes now have plus 0.5 spirit. Sprint boots reduced from +2 spirit to plus 1.5. Enduring speed reduced from +2 spirit to plus 1.5. Carrying Urn now sets and limits your move speed to a fixed 13. Urn spawn point now alternates left and right, starting with left and rather than being random. Shooting a trooper on a zipline now causes other troopers near it on the zipline to dismount as well, something that should have always been in the game from the start. Flying over buildings no longer causes you to get zapped only when you land on it. Patreon HP reduced from 10k to 7.5. The downed Patreon HP reduced from 18 to 13.5, probably to make games go by quicker. Patreon HP grows by 250 a minute, starting at 20 minutes. And then the down Patreon HP grows from 450 a minute, starting at 20 minutes. Then the second part of the miscellaneous added a tick-based soul system that gives the bottom 2 net worth players on the team a small amount of souls. Added a new limiting function for the soul orb duplication abuses during the laning phase. Players can only participate in 4 soul orb share events per trooper wave. Then they reverted some changes related to the soul duplication issues, as well as they reverted Guardians now deal 25% more damage to troopers. Guardians now take 25 more damage from troopers players. Range to be considered for souls reduced by 5 meters. Troops now do 20% more damage to each other. All of those changes are reverted. With that out of the way, let's talk weapon items. So basic magazine weapon damage reduced from 15 to 12, close quarters weapon damage reduced from 25 to 22, and the bullet resist reduced from 5 to 4%. Headshot booster cooldown increased from 7.5 seconds to 8.5. High velocity mag weapon damage reduced from 13 to 11. Hollow point ward threshold increased from 60 to 65, and the weapon damage was reduced from 22 to 20%. For monster rounds, weapon damage versus NPCs were reduced from 30 to 26. Rapid rounds fire rate reduced from 11 to 10, and restorative shot weapon damage reduced from 6 to 3%. A pretty big change in my eyes. Berserker now builds into Frenzy, so you can save some money trying to build Berserker. Active reload ammo increased from 18 to 24. Then for melee charge bonus health was reduced from 75 to plus 65 instead. For spell slinger headshot, the proc bonus changed from 3% spirit power to 3% spirit amp. Point blank now provides plus 20% melee resistance. Toxic bullets bleed damage increased from 2.5 to 2.75. Sharpshooter now reduces your fire rate by 10% and move speed by 0.5. Weapon damage increased from 20 to 30%, and the far range weapon damage increased from 50 to 70%. For Titanic magazine, melee resist increased from 25 to 30. Alchemic Fire added alternative desaturated variant for friendly version of this. Frenzy now builds from Berserk. It grants Berserker's passive increased bonus per sec from 6 to 8%, and then provides everything on screen. For Crippling Headshot, the headshot debuff will stack from different sources. Shadow Weave spot radius increased from 22 meters to 26. Lucky Shot proc chance reduced from 35 to 34, not a major change. Silencer build-up difficulty increased by 18%. Then last but not least, Spiritual Overflow cooldown reduced from 15 to 12%. Following that, we have our vitality items. Not a whole lot of changes to them, but nonetheless, here they are. For extra stamina, the fire rate was reduced from 6 to 5%. Healing rate, health bonus reduced from plus 45 to plus 30, a pretty big change in my eyes. Healing Nova, time to heal increased from 2 seconds to 2.75. Enchanter's Barrier cooldown reduction reduced from 8 to 6%. Return Fire no longer has a plus 9 spirit power. Return Fire now has plus 3 HP regen, and it also has plus 10% ammo. For Veil Walker, When shot while invisible, you will require 1 second to go back in invis rather than 0.25 seconds, and cooldown increase from 18 to 22 seconds. Majestic Leap no longer gets interrupted on slam down if you get shot, middle skin duration increased from 3.5 to 4 seconds, and the stamina movement distance reduced by 25%. Rescue Beam range reduced from 32 meters to 28, debuff remover buff duration increased from 4 to 5, and health on active increased from 10% max HP to 300. Unstoppable now has a 20% slow resistant. Leech no longer provides plus 12% cooldown reduction. It also now upgrades from Healbane. It provides plus 60% anti-healing for 8 seconds on spirit damage dealt. A rather interesting change. Moving right along, we have our spirit items. Starting with Infuser. Duration increased from 6 to 8 seconds, it no longer grants plus 50 health, and it now grants plus 70 spirit shield. Again, a rather interesting change. Withering Whip duration increased from 4.5 to 5 seconds, and the bullet resist reduced from minus 11% to minus 12%. Slowing Hex cooldown increased from 26 to 28 seconds. Suppressor duration increased from 2 seconds to 2.5. Decay for the bleed damage, it was increased from 1.4 to 1.5%. Then following, we have Rapid Recharge. Cooldown for charged abilities reduced from 30% to 25%. For Ethereal Shift, it allows you to float around slowly for 2 meters a second. So instead of just standing still, you can slowly move around, which is rather interesting. Science Glyph now pierces through all enemies in the path, which is pretty cool. Projectiles and collision size increased by 40%. Arcane Surge ability range reduced from 20% to plus 18%, ability duration reduced from 20% to 18%, and the spirit power was reduced from plus 20 to plus 18 as well. For Mystic Slow, duration increased from 2 seconds to 2.5, Surge of Power fire rate increased from 10% to 15%, Knockdown stun duration reduced from 0.9 to 0.75, and the stun now lasts 1 second longer against airborne targets based on how high off the ground they are. For Refresher, Castellet increased from 0.3 to 0.6, Divine Kevlar cooldown reduced from 12% to 10%, ability duration increased from 7% to 10%, Mystic Reaver damage increased from 45 to 50%, and then Magic Carpet duration increased from 7 to 8 seconds. Overall, rather interesting changes to the spirit items. Let me know if you agree or disagree with these changes so far. And if you're still here, I appreciate you sticking around, as there was a lot of changes to the heroes. And I'm pretty sure quite literally every single hero in the game that you can play currently got some type of change. So kicking things off, Abram's bullet damage decreased from 4.68 to 4.5, Spirit Siphon Spirit Scaling increased from 0.5 to 0.65, so not a major change or anything like that. For Bebop, Uppercut now only locks enemies out of air control for a max of 0.5 seconds. Hook now shows a hero icon when you connect with a target. Hook delay reduce when pulling allies. Hook tier 1 now also improves melee damage, so it's pretty good to start Hook now. Dynamo fixed quantum entanglement. Kinetic pulse tier 2 now affects melee damage too. Magic Carpet plus Dynamo Heal interaction. Singularity cooldown increased from 191 seconds to 215, which is honestly a pretty major change. Singularity now deals half damage to objectives, and Singularity fixed tooltip referencing knockup that it doesn't do. For these characters, I don't think any of the changes that were done are anything over the top, and I think the adjustments are quite fine, but hopefully the Hook tier 1 doesn't do too much damage in improving it. However, for a second part of heroes, things get interesting. Immobilizing Trap for Great Talon renamed to Spirit Snare. The Spirit Snare now applies a curse debuff, which is interesting. Spirit Snare tier 2 no longer increased slow by 1 per second. Spirit Snare tier 2 now increases curse debuff by 0.5 seconds. I don't know if I like this change, it seems a little too strong. You can shoot your charge shot onto the Spirit Snare to trigger it to detonate immediately. Interesting, charge shots can now secure orbs. That's rather interesting, I think it's a good change. Then a ton of changes to Haze. Smoke Bomb tier 1 Spirit reduced from +6 to +5. The charge time for tier 3 reduced from 10 seconds to 7. They fixed fixation not working. Tier 3 for fixation reduced from 0.15 to 0.12. Sleep state no longer disables the target. It instead allows them to move at 2 meters a second, which is interesting. It just completely removes Sleep Dagger. Sleep Dagger now takes effect immediately rather than after a brief delay. Bull Dance cooldown increased from 138 seconds to 150. Tier 1 reduced from +7 to +6 spirit damage. Tier 2 increased from -38 seconds to -40 seconds. Bullet Dance fixed an issue causing the game to freeze for the duration of the old channel. Infernus Flame Dash cooldown reduced from 40 to 35 seconds. Flame Dash Tier 3 changed from minus 19 second CD to minus 15. Tier 3 also makes the ability charge, 15 second charge time. Afterburn Spirit Scaling increased from 0.5 to 0.6, so honestly a buff to Infernus. For IV, melee damage and growth reduced by 15%, starting health reduced from 550 to 525. Watcher's Covenant fixed to replicate healing even when you are full. Watcher's Covenant now initially locks onto the target in your facing direction if there is one. Formstone now shows the IV player a visible radius. Kutsu Bomb now grows on the ground if it hits Geo instead of floating in the air. They fixed Phantom Strike, and Airdrop now lets you choose to significantly reduce your initial upward momentum. For Kelvin, they fixed some issues with being unable to shoot. Frost Grenade now also reduces stamina regeneration. Frozen Shelter now created on key up. Frozen Shelter cooldown increased from 127 to 130, not a massive change. Frozen Shelter Tier 2 increased from minus 38 seconds to minus 40. Lady Guy's Malice can now secure orbs. Soak Stage Tier 2 changed from minus 10% min health to on cast plus 40% fire rate for 8 seconds. Life Drain Tier 3 changed from enemy is silenced while being life changed to ability becomes charged and grants plus 1 charge. Lash Ground Strike Tier 1 improves from minus 9.5 second cooldown to minus 10. Now all the next changes are all on his Death Slam. The cooldown increased from 137 to 140. The channel time increased from 2 seconds to 2.3. Slam Impact Radius increased from 5 meters to 6. The Colon Angle increased from 75 to 85. The cast range increased from 18 meters to 20. Tier 2 changed from plus 100 damage to minus 30 second cooldown, and the Tier 3 changed from minus 50 second cooldown to impact area stuns for 1 second. So a lot of changes to his Death Slam. Next up, McGinnis Mini Turret's HP gain per boon increased from 20 to 30. Mini Turrets no longer limit the damage they take. Mini Turrets now have a minimum lifetime of 4 seconds, and the Mini Turret's fire rate reduced by 20%. For Mirage, Fire Scarabs now applies its drain over 4 seconds instead of front loaded. Fire Scarabs no longer reflects you from hitting the same target. Fire Scarab's launch window increased from 5 to 8 seconds. Traveler Tier 2 changed from minus 50 second cooldown to grants allied traveler benefits. For Monkrill, Burrow is no longer affected by Abraham's shoulder charge. Spectral Wall no longer hits you while you're burrowed. Scorn now heals you instantly rather than over 1 second, and combo health gain tooltip clarified. In Paradox, Time Wall stop duration reduced from 0.6 to 0.5, Kinetic Carbine max stop duration reduced from 0.5 to 0.4, and Kinetic Carbine tier run reduced from 0.5 to 0.4 seconds. Following that, we have changes to Pocket. Health growth reduced from 31 to 27. Enchanter's Satchel Tier 1 increased from minus 4.75 seconds to minus 5 seconds. Enchanter's Satchel escape duration reduced from 2 seconds to 1.5. Tier 3 Satchel now also increases escape duration. Flying Cloak duration increase. Then Affliction now immediately deals 18% of current HP. Affliction DPS reduced from 27 to 12. The Spirit Scaling from it was reduced from 0.3 to 0.22. Radius reduced from 14 to 9. Then Tier 3 reduced from plus 27 DPS to plus 15. Affliction Tier 3 now also increases range by 5 meters. So overall, kind of a nerf and a buff to Pocket. For his 7, Stormcloud now grants you a secondary ability, Lightning Strike. It's a one-time cone use AoE ability you can target anywhere in your ultimate range. Pretty interesting. And the Stormcloud DPS reduced from 125 to 110, and Tier 3 now also allows you to float around at 2.5 meters a second. Fix an issue with Shiv. Then Vindicta health reduced from 550 to 525. Crow Familiar projectile speed increased from 3,500 to 4,750. Vindicta Stake Tier 2 increased from minus 19 to minus 20. Tier 3 reduced from plus 0.75 to plus 5. Tier 3 now also increases capture radius by 2 meters. Vindicta Assassinate time between charges increased from 1.6 to 2 seconds. Assassinate base damage reduced from 130 to 120. And Assassinate Tier 2 damage reduced from 140 to 130. Then lastly, Viscous fixed visual parry cooldown. The cube cooldown reduced from 48 to 42 seconds, and the cube cast range reduced from 30 meters to 26. For Puddle Punch, the radius increased from 4 to 4.5. The punch slow reduced from 20 to 15. Punch Tier 2 slow reduced from 20 to 15. And Punch Tier 3 now also causes the punch to become a heavy melee. For the Goo Ball, damage spirit power scaling reduced from 1.3 to 1.1, and the Goo Ball damage Tier 2 reduced from 120 to 90. And as you can see, all the changes to Last Stand. Next is Wraith. Bullet damage growth increased from 0.37 to 0.39. Full auto Tier 2 spirit damage per bullet now has a default plus 0.05 spirit scaling. Tier 3 reduced the improvement spirit power scaling from 0.1 to 0.05. Tier 3 changed from 30% bullet lifesteal to 20% bullet lifesteal and spirit lifesteal. And telekinesis cast time reduced from 0.7 to 0.4. Telekinesis projectile increased from 650 to 750. Pretty much, they didn't really address how much damage she's still doing with her base gun, so nothing over the top. For Yamato, Flying Strike Tier 3 now also lets you grapple to ally heroes. Shadow Transformation cast time reduced from 2 seconds to 1.5. Shadow Transformation no longer has a 0.6 seconds post cast time, and Shadow Tier 3 Transformation now also increases resist by 15%. And those are all of the changes made to the December 6th patch for Deadlock. Now, I do the videos quickly in this manner, as one, I'm not home, and two, it's just patch notes to read. I try to make it easier by telling you all about it. But anyways, I hope you have a great day, and I'll catch you in the next one.